There are moments that remind us what humanity truly means. Moments so pure, so unexpected, that they touch millions of hearts even through a screen. This is not just about generosity. It's about love, compassion, and the small acts that restore faith in humanity. In a world that sometimes feels too fast, too cold, too self-centered, there are people who quietly remind us that kindness still breathes in every corner. It all begins with a single action, someone stopping to help, to comfort, to give, without expecting anything back. Like the story of an elderly man standing at a grocery store checkout, his trembling hands holding a few dollars short of the total. Before he could apologize or put something back, a stranger behind him gently placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Don't worry, I've got it." That one gesture left the old man in tears. He wasn't just thankful for the money, it was the feeling that he still mattered, that someone cared enough to notice. Moments like this remind us that kindness doesn't need a reason. Another clip that melted hearts across the country showed a group of teenagers who noticed an old veteran sitting alone in a diner. His uniform cap said WWII veteran, and his eyes were heavy with quiet stories. Instead of just walking by, these teens joined him, paying for his meal and listening to his memories. They didn't post for likes or fame, they just gave him something more valuable than money: time, respect, and company. That simple lunch became a viral moment because it showed that the next generation hasn't lost its empathy. Sometimes, the most powerful acts come from those who have little to give. There's a clip from downtown where a homeless man saw a woman drop her wallet. She didn't notice, but he did. Even though he had nothing, he ran after her and handed it back. When she turned and saw who he was, her eyes filled with tears. She offered him food and a jacket, and later, a local news crew found him and shared his story. The world saw that even those who have the least can have the biggest hearts. That's the kind of kindness that shakes the world, the kind that expects nothing in return. One of the most heartbreaking yet beautiful moments ever caught on camera came from a hospital room. A nurse sat beside an elderly patient who had no family left. The man was scared and in pain. Before his surgery, she held his hand and whispered that she would stay until he woke up. When the doctors rolled him away, she didn't leave. Hours later, she was still there. That video went viral not because of words, but because of pure emotion. It showed how sometimes the simplest presence, the willingness to sit beside someone, is the greatest gift of all. Then there's the story of a man at a Walmart who decided to pay off the layaway bills of complete strangers before Christmas. Parents came in expecting to find their gifts still unpaid, only to discover everything was taken care of. One mother broke down in tears right there in the aisle, clutching toys for her kids that she thought she couldn't afford. Her words echoed what so many feel but never say. "You don't know how much this means." That one man didn't just buy gifts. He gave families the joy of a Christmas they thought they couldn't have. In another corner of the country, a firefighter pulled over on the side of a road, not to fight a fire, but to help a driver changing a tire in the pouring rain. The dashcam caught the whole thing: his soaked uniform, his muddy boots, and the relieved face of the woman who didn't even know his name. Sometimes heroes don't wear capes, they just stop when they see someone struggling. And there's that unforgettable video of a school janitor surprised by students who raised money to buy him a car. Every day, he walked miles to school, arriving before sunrise, smiling through exhaustion, greeting every student with kindness. When they handed him the car keys, his knees buckled, tears streaming down his face. He had given his time, his care, his positivity for years, and finally, kindness came back around. It wasn't just a car, it was proof that good hearts are never forgotten. In another moment, caught on a subway camera, a young man noticed a blind passenger standing uncertainly at the platform edge. Without hesitation, he took the man's hand and guided him safely inside. When the train stopped later, he even walked him to the exit. No one asked him to. He just did it because it was right. In a world full of distractions, that quiet awareness stands out. It's what makes humanity so extraordinary. Sometimes, kindness appears in moments of loss. A viral video showed a group of strangers forming a line on a flooded road, linking arms to rescue an elderly woman trapped in her car. The current was strong, but their unity was stronger. They risked their lives for someone they didn't know. When they finally pulled her to safety, she held their hands and whispered a thank you through tears. That scene wasn't just a rescue, It was a symbol of what people can do when they act out of love rather than fear. Another heartbreaking story captured in a small-town park showed a young boy sitting alone on a bench, crying after his dog ran away. A stranger walking by stopped, knelt down, and helped him search until they found the dog hours later. The hug between that boy and the stranger said more than any words could. It's in those moments, those small, unseen gestures, that true humanity shines. There was also the story of a group of bikers who escorted a bullied child to school. The boy had been too scared to go back, but these men and women surrounded him like guardians, showing the world that kindness can also be fierce. They didn't know him personally, but they knew what it meant to feel alone, and they weren't about to let him face that alone again. One of the most emotional acts of kindness came during a graduation ceremony, when a teacher walked across the stage not for herself, but for a student who had passed away before finishing school. She carried his cap in her hands, tears streaming, while the crowd stood in silence. It was a tribute that reminded everyone that love doesn't end when life does. Then there was a police officer who, instead of arresting a shoplifter, bought him food. The man had stolen because he was hungry and desperate. The officer didn't see a criminal, he saw a human being. That moment turned into a friendship that changed both their lives. Kindness doesn't excuse wrongs, but it understands them, and sometimes that understanding can heal what punishment never could. And perhaps the most heart-touching video of all came from a small-town airport. A soldier returning home found his entire neighborhood waiting to welcome him, holding signs that said, "You're never forgotten." Among the crowd was a little girl holding a photo of her dad who hadn't come back. The soldier kneeled, hugged her, and promised to honor his fallen brother. That image captured everything: pain, love, and the unbreakable thread of humanity that connects us all. Kindness doesn't always go viral. Many acts never make it to camera. They happen quietly. A neighbor checking on an elderly woman next door, a teacher buying lunch for a hungry student, a stranger smiling at someone who's had a hard day. But whether they're caught on film or not, they matter. Every single one of them ripples outward, creating hope where there was once despair. These stories prove something beautiful, that even in the hardest times, the light of kindness never fades. It reminds us that for every act of cruelty, there's someone who chooses compassion. For every moment of division, there's a hand reaching out. The most heartbreaking acts of kindness are powerful not because they make us cry, but because they make us feel. They remind us that we're still human, and that, no matter what, love always finds a way.